Welcome to In Real Time, where we as Heights Church are inviting you in for real conversations about leading people, organizations, and change in the new normal. We're hoping that our real discussions about our church's journey will help you as you reimagine and rebuild yours. Craig here with In Real Time, where we are having real conversations about leading people, organization, and change. We'd love it if you hit the like, subscribe, and the bell notification so you don't miss one episode. I am joined by two co-hosts today as we're talking about the topic of leadership longevity. But before we dive into that, why don't you guys introduce yourselves?
Yeah, my name is Tim. I am one of the associate pastors here. I oversee the online church and a teaching pastor.
Very cool.
And I'm Justin. I'm our life groups pastor, young adults, and hospitality.
Nice. And people are probably wondering what is up. You're wearing your Alabama shirt, disrespectful to all of us. You got your Alabama hammer.
Bring in blessings.
I have a... we're going to explain that in a minute. There is a Rams helmet here, which is not mine. That belongs to Ryan Connolly, our worship pastor.
Yeah, can you make
you
an
fix
adjustment?
that, please?
I definitely need to make an adjustment.
Please.
The Broncos.
There we go.
Yeah.
Just going to eat that hat
It's like a Pac-Man just ate it, right?
That's hilarious.
So good, so good. And then we totally get this, what's going on between Tim and I here, but we don't understand what's happening with
I'm
you,
the
Justin.
Star Wars fan and not a football fan? I mean, I don't know what to tell you.
All right.
There really is nothing more to say about that. Okay.
Here we go.
Are we going to let him
longevity.
Grogu out here?
Yeah, he's hanging out, man.
True.
Leave him alone.
Leadership longevity.
Hold hands.
Maybe this should be his last episode. Okay, anyway, so, all right. So we're
really
talking
fun.
about leadership longevity. This is part one of two parts, unless we think of something we need to think of for a part three. But right now we're thinking this is probably going to go two.
Yeah.
But leadership longevity, we realize that there are some good reasons that people will move on in ministry. They're not going to stay in the exact same place that they are currently. We move from one place to another. And so there's some good reasons for it. You know, something like, I don't know, God told me to. He does lead us. He gives us some direction. And we know that sometimes it's just not a good fit, right? I mean, we realize it and we're there and we realize this place is what it is. And I am what I am, and they're both good. But I don't really fit here, and I'm not really meant to be here long term. And so I've been in those situations, and has that ever happened to you guys?
Actually, no.
No? Well, there you go. All right.
I've seen it.
You've seen it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then this is your first ministry post here.
Formal
with
vocational ministry, But I've had jobs where it was not a good fit. And it was like, I'm out.
Yeah.
True.
You know, I've had that where it was a toxic environment, toxic boss who just wanted to control every little thing and couldn't see beyond that. And so, I mean, I've had those, but ministry-wise,
Yeah, no, it's good. So when we talk about longevity in ministry, you know, I think to give a little context, pre-COVID, and I go to those numbers because, well, those are really probably the most accurate numbers that we have. We're still gathering numbers about current situation, but pre-pandemic, most student ministry pastors would stay at a church about 18 months.
Correct.
Most senior pastors would be between 5 to 7 years, somewhere in that range. Some of them even down in that 3-year range. And so there's not a lot of longevity when we're talking about ministry, when you talk about the averages. But when we talk about longevity, this is something that we three believe a lot in, and really our team. We've been with each other for a good long time and building each year after year. So how long have you guys been here at Heights Church?
I'm moving into my 7th year, so I'm like 6 3/4.
Okay, all right. Yeah, 6 and 3/4.
I got three numbers. I got attendance. I've been here 12.
Nice.
I was a year as an intern. And so that was 8 years ago, and the full-time staff 7 years now.
Nice.
Yeah. So
And so
Long time.
my wife and I planted the church, and we're actually right now at our 14-year anniversary.
Wow.
So, and we are going to be here for a good long time. So we're talking about longevity in ministry. We're going to be talking specifically about things that we have experienced ourselves. And so we want to just speak to that. And we hope that this conversation will be helpful to leaders, because we know that right now, the last 3 years have stirred up a lot of dust.
Oh, gosh.
The waters are murky, and all the statistics I'm reading is that 40-something% of current pastors are actually thinking of either stepping out of ministry or making a move. And that doesn't count the people who already have in the pandemic. Now, we know it's not just pastors. There's also, it's almost 50% of the workforce over the pandemic actually changed jobs.
Is that the whole quiet quitting piece? Is
Quiet,
that what,
yeah,
people just quietly quitting
That's
in the
part
background?
of it as well. Yep. Which, by the way, about half of those who moved are now saying, as they're surveyed, that they are dissatisfied where they are.
Wow.
Which is an important part of this conversation, because often when we leave one place to go to another place, we think we're actually resolving some problems. And sometimes that's the case.
Right.
But wait till the last part of this episode, because we're going to be diving into some of that as well. So anyway, as we get into this, I think one of the things that is so critical, my wife gave me a great quote years ago, and it's simply this: there are no long-term relationships without forgiveness. And I think that's a great quote for all of us to hear right as we start this conversation about longevity. I'm not going to dive deep into that yet, because I want to come to the benefits of longevity. And we actually made a pretty healthy list here.
Yep.
And I think this is why this is worth at least 2 podcasts, and why it's worth all of us reconsidering longevity in ministry, staying where we are. So let's talk about that. What's on our list here? What made the list?
Legacy.
Yeah.
Like
Legacy.
one of the huge benefits of longevity is like you have legacy. You can see it being passed on from one to the other, and that just lends itself to a deeper, which leads to another one, deeper relationships.
Yeah.
So you have legacy, you have deeper relationships. So the deeper we go with one another and in ministry, the longer we go.
That's really good.
Right?
That's really
it's just
good.
real healthy moving that direction. And whereas, if you're not willing, you mentioned that forgiveness piece, if you're not really doing the work when things start to rub a little bit and you just jettison or exchange it for another, that's not very deep.
Yeah.
And it's
that's
not very
deep.
long. And so we know that there's great satisfaction in these long-term relationships, these long-term legacies of ministry. There's great benefit. You see a lot coming out of that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You know who comes to mind? Pastor Cheryl.
Oh, I was totally thinking of her name too. Yeah.
Our executive pastor just retired last year. She was with us for about 12 years. And I mean, we're constantly quoting Cheryl
All the time.
right? Because she poured into us.
That's right.
We learned from her. She was an amazing colleague. And so she's somebody who's literally left a legacy here at our church. You can't tell the story of our church in the last 12 years without her being intricately involved in it. Powerful the impact that she's had. So that's a legacy.
Absolutely.
That happens because she stayed.
Yep.
Yes.
She stayed. Yeah, that's good. That's good. What's some more things that make the benefit list?
Well, you get time to develop better, or really a quality out of the leaders that you have. And so, like example, I mean, you guys have brought me in from Justin the intern. You gave me time, let me kind of get my feet wet, move me in, expanded my capacity, giving me places to stretch. And, now I'm running a lot of different things here at the church. And so, and then I also have leaders under me that are growing and, life group leaders that we've had for, going on 7 years together. And so watching them bloom and blossom and lean into their own leadership, I mean, you get time to see that stuff happen when you've been around a while.
Again, that's that legacy piece.
Yeah, and it's awesome.
It does take time to develop leaders.
Absolutely. It really does.
Year after year.
There's no microwave leaders. I mean, you can't just toss a leader in a microwave and whoop, hey, you got a leader.
True.
It doesn't work.
It's so true.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're about growing deep leaders.
Yeah.
We want them to be strong. We want them to be developed over time. So we need to be here in order to accomplish that.
Yeah.
Love that. Long-term, deeper relationships.
Yes.
we get to have those
Yeah.
in ministry. And the deeper we go, I love you said this earlier, the deeper we go, the longer we will go. And that's so true with our friendships. We get to stay together, but it's more satisfying.
Oh, my
You
goodness.
get those relationships when you're in a place long term.
Yeah.
Yeah. It builds trust and friendship. True friendship in ministry. I love that. And that honestly makes me feel or think of Acts. You know, I think of Paul and his traveling companions and, Barnabas. And yeah, I mean, in a sense, they were peers in ministry, but they were friends first. And it was amazing what they got to experience together.
And they could weather it better together too.
Yeah, that's true.
You know that if you have a short-term friendship and you really haven't seeded that well, and a storm comes or some friction or tension, the tendency, especially in our culture, is just to discard it.
Yeah.
And get another. Get
Yeah.
another. As a youth ministry guy for a long time, I could see a student go through this 4-year period of, say, high school ministry, and they would introduce me to 6 of their best friends.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I
This is
would
my
say,
new best friend.
Right.
6.
So I said, well, what happened to so-and-so? Oh, we had an agreement. I don't talk to them anymore. But I think about my friends that we've weathered the storms, and there's been some confrontation, but we weathered it.
Right.
And it's deeper, and our friendship is now going longer. And so you parallel that to ministry.
Yeah.
So that's real good deep ministry. It's not a mile long, inch deep.
Yeah.
It can be a mile long, thousands of feet deep, but that takes longevity.
That takes longevity.
That takes time.
Yeah. So along those lines, then healthy working relationships too. We're not always best friends with everybody, of course, but our working relationships tend to be much healthier the longer we're in a place. I like that.
Well, and part of that, you learn people's strengths and weaknesses. You learn how they receive communication, how they communicate with you. And so if you're, if you're willing to learn yourself how you can meet somebody on common ground, you get healthier relationships.
Yeah.
Because you're finding those gaps and those bridges to cross, and you're building bridges instead of barriers and barricades. You don't become siloed. You can actually be a team together. And that's one of the things I love about Heights Church is just our healthy working relationships.
Yeah.
I mean, you can go to anybody on our staff and they'll list their friendships. I mean, it's not just that we work together. A lot of us are friends.
That's right. That's right.
I mean,
the Jeeps in the parking lot prove it. Hanging out together on the
I
weekend.
think there's like 12 now.
We have
So
a friend.
good.
Well, Doug Britton, one of our management guys, is always shocked when I tell him that I have a life group full of pastors. And he goes, "You have a what?" And I go, "Yeah, I have a life group that is full of pastors." And he's always so shocked by it. He's like, "Do you know how rare that is?" He's like, that is so freakishly unique in the church world.
Yeah.
Because pastors end up being on these islands alone because they don't allow those friendships to take place because they feel unsafe or something like that.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but I mean, I think you need us to have these kind of healthy relationships.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely, I do.
I mean, when we have them, we function better together. And so I just love that. So.
Yeah. No, I think it's so critically important. And I know that being a football coach for years, the best teams that I had and were a part of were the ones that we had longevity. We played together year in and year out.
Yeah.
Or the team played together year in and year out. They knew what each other were going to do. Well, that's the same exact thing that's going on here. This is a team, and we work with strengths, weaknesses, and we help one another. So there's a lot of benefits to longevity, which is why we're talking about this. Because if somebody's only in a place 5 years, you're not going to get these kind of things. And if you're there 18 months as a student ministries pastor, you're not going to get these benefits.
Yeah.
In your own life or in the life of the ministry itself. But there's a few more. I mean, this is a long list, actually.
Yeah.
A stronger culture for the overall organization.
Yep.
So often, I mean, you think about it, a new church means a new search team, and they're searching for a new person who brings a new culture with them. And they're going to stay 4 to 5 years, and then you're going to start all over.
Yeah.
That is a recipe for not success.
Yeah.
That's not success. Not at all. And so you want something that's going to last, that's going to leave a legacy. It requires time, longevity. So yeah, there's some huge benefits for it. If you can stay, I think it's so important. Time, also longevity builds trust.
Yes.
Hopefully your value as well rises over time because we're growing as leaders. And so our value rises as well. And one thing I can truly say as a senior leader at this point here at the 14-year mark, you can truly build your dream team. That is not something that can be done in a year. You can't do it. It's not the way it works. It takes time. And I love the fact we've got that dream team. So these are all benefits of longevity. And we could come up with more, but we do have some other things we need to talk about that are going to help us. So because these benefits are here, we wanted to talk about then some of the reasons that we leave places that aren't necessarily because God said so, but because we feel there's something wrong and we feel like we need to solve it, and we think moving to another place, leaving this one, is going to get us that. And so how we're going to be looking at this is, and this isn't the entire picture we get, but there's some specific things that we think are important that we need to pay attention to. And I know we're talking to spiritual leaders, and I'm going to say, first thing is we have to pay attention to our spiritual health. And I can say this from my own perspective. My spiritual health absolutely matters with whether I want to stay or if I want to leave. It does. It matters a lot. It matters a lot. So there's 3 questions that go along with this. Of course, you can ask other questions. But what are these 3 questions? And we'll dive into the 3.
Yeah, well, the first one we got is just like, what satisfies your soul?
That's good.
What's deep down satisfies your soul. And there's what drains you, and then also what motivates you.
Yeah.
Answering those 3 questions and kind of being able to focus in on those gives you a good foundation of, where's my spiritual health at?
Yeah, yeah.
Because sometimes if you can't identify what satisfies your soul, you don't know how to work towards that. Or to spend time in that, or what's draining you. You may not, if you can't recognize that, then there's going to be a constant drain.
Yeah.
And if you're not plugging that hole, then, or addressing that problem, then you're going to be empty.
Yeah, yeah.
You're going to be empty.
And I think the problem really that we're dealing with here and we're trying to confront is that when I am not spiritually healthy, I can think the problem, and often do think the problem is the place that I'm serving. When really, I'm just taking my lack of spiritual health to another place.
Yeah. You're blaming someone else.
You're blame shifting.
Blame shifting.
Yeah, and even if I am to move on, I want to do that from a place of spiritual health.
Yeah.
Right? So let's resolve any of these issues. So let's dive into this for a minute, because I think this is an important question for us. There's 3 questions here about spiritual health. What satisfies your soul? How would you answer that question?
For me, and this goes back to longevity too, I love seeing people who've been discipled grow. Like, I love that. I can think of a list of names, 5 that I could rattle off the top of my head right now, of people that I have walked with, discipled, helped train in their faith, who are stepping into leadership, who are leading well, who have grown, who just look different than they did 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Their faith is deeper than it was 5 years ago. And that fills my soul like nothing else. Like, it truly does.
Yeah.
So
when you get to see that spiritually, that absolutely satisfies your soul.
Oh, yeah.
So that's awesome.
Yeah.
So you
One
need
of
to
my
be
favorites.
around that.
I do.
And get as much of it as you can.
as much as I can.
Yeah.
As often
That's
as I
good.
can.
That's good. What about you, Tim? What satisfies your soul?
Oh, man.
It's not necessarily about ministry, but just you personally.
Yeah, I would say
Barbecue.
Barbecue.
Just playing.
Right.
Yeah.
you didn't want
Wow,
me to
your
say
soul is really down
Yeah.
deep.
Oh, yeah.
I feel
Yeah.
that one. I do.
Yeah, I'm going to fill it up tonight.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
I might come over.
Yeah, I think like right now in the season of life I am, and with ministry and the position right now, what satisfies my soul is this healthy rhythm of just pouring myself into others, helping others see things maybe they don't see, like leading, those kind of things. That really satisfies my soul on some levels. And, I know I don't want to jump ahead, but one of the things is probably the same answer as their next question, but what satisfies my soul is seeing the team, like living out and working out and serving out their calling, just being a part of team, watching from children's ministries doing their things to our worship team.
Yeah.
Because of longevity, I have either past students, my own 2 boys, my 2 sons, serving in ministry under people that I am on staff with, and that's just super satisfying. Seeing my wife step into women's ministry roles, and that just satisfies my soul.
Yeah,
to see people engaged.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
So I think when I think about this question about satisfying my soul, just from a personal perspective, I would just say it really just gets down to the basic, making sure that everything is just good with my relationship with Christ.
Yep.
That, my heart is clean, my mind is clear. I'm enjoying my family, my wife, my kids, and there is just a healthy, beautiful calm about that life at home. It's beautiful. And from that, I know that I feel healthy. But obviously, if that wasn't healthy, I'd be agitated.
Oh, yeah.
And absolutely. I think people feel that agitation personally, and they want to attribute that to their church or their post as a Christian leader, and those things aren't necessarily true.
Yeah.
And so I know that satisfies my soul. What drains you? What drains you?
For me, what drains me is not when I am at my capacity, and there's that friction that we talk about hits, like something comes onto my plate and I'm overwhelmed. That literally will tank me. So that's why it's important, like that I'm feeding myself, getting rest, being spiritually healthy, because when I am not, and I could drive into the drive, my driveway at home, walk into the house, and if I'm not feeding my soul, right, if I'm not satisfied, then what drains me, and it's not what my family or friends are asking of me that drains me, it's the fact that I'm not in a place where I can step into it in a healthy manner. So when I'm over capacity, that drains me. And I know that's work I have to do. And so that I always want to kind of stay on my toes and pay attention to that and not get laxed, because I can find myself in the situations that I'm just being drained, and it's usually not the other person. It's something I didn't do. That puts me in a place where I'm just allowing myself to be drained. And that's because I didn't do the homework. I didn't do the work.
Yeah, no, it's good. How about you, Justin?
Watching people deconstruct and walk away for silly reasons. That drains my soul.
Yeah.
It just wears on my soul. It just makes me sad. I mean, because you see people that you love dearly who you want to grow in their faith, you want them to lean in, and they're just inches away. And something happens and they make some excuse, or we didn't do this right, or we didn't do that right, and they're out of here. And you've invested all this time.
Yeah.
You've invested all this energy, all this love, all this stuff into their lives, and the relationship, it's almost like I'm not valued enough to you to even try. So you get canceled and they're out. And so that drains my soul. That really does.
Yeah. No, that's thanks for that honest answer. I know for me, what drains me specifically would be problems that I can't solve.
Yeah, that too.
If I have problems or issues, agitations around me, people, conflict, that drains me, because I connect to people at a pretty emotional level right away. And so that means emotionally, I'm just up and down. And so that just drains me. And I need to get to the resolve. You guys know. Because that's the reason I wound up calling you guys at 5:30 in the afternoon or 7 that night, because I'm like, we had an interaction during the day, and I'm like, hey, did I say that okay? Are we all right? I hope you're not offended, because I'm being drained.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, I'm sorry if I said that wrong. Hey, are we clear? Because that matters to me, and it does. It's on my mind. I can't let go of it. So I can't wait till the next day.
Yeah.
So, but it just drains me. So it's good that we know that. And again, if you don't know that about yourself, it's easy to attribute that to your work environment, which is, for us, a church. That's critical. And when we leave, and we're going to take that same thing with us. Yeah, so important. Okay, so what motivates you? What motivates you? Spiritual health. What motivates you to spiritual health?
I know that when I do the work, when I sit with Jesus, when I am having those, God days or that quiet time or whatever it is, when I'm filling myself up, that motivates me because I know that I'm going to then be able to pour into somebody else. I mean, as pastors, we have meetings all the time, right? I just yesterday at church, I added 3 new appointments to my schedule just this week.
Word.
And these are people who are like, I need to talk to you. Well, what motivates me is that I know I'm going to meet with so-and-so at this time. And we talked about this earlier. That means I'm going to put in the work so that I can be in a place where I can pour out.
Yeah.
And
it's good.
That motivates me because I want people to connect with Jesus. And I know that we say this a lot, if I come with my best ideas, I've done them a disservice.
Yeah.
And then it needs to be God's best ideas.
Right.
So that's what motivates me, is just being able to point them to Jesus.
Yeah. That's
in a good, clear way.
Cool. Awesome. Awesome. What about you, Justin? What motivates you?
What he said. That and the honest truth is I'm freakishly loyal. I'm one of those guys that I'm freakishly loyal to friends, family, my church. And so there's
You
part of me.
You are freakishly loyal.
Freakishly loyal.
Would you say so, Tim?
I mean, it's true though, right?
He is.
Like,
But
I
we
just
love that about you.
This is my home, and how dare you like mess with my home and my family and my friends? And so I don't know. I do it out of a sense of duty, a love, compassion, just all of those things for the people around me. So it motivates me to do better, to grow. I mean, all of the spiritual components, obviously, because I know I need them to do it well.
Yeah.
But really, it's just my loyalty to friends and family. I mean, you guys are my friends and family. You're my family, and so I know it seems weird, but that is a motivating factor for me. In fact, early on, somebody said, "Hey, you're going to get your degree. You're going to get about 5 years in the chair, and you're going to be marketable for other places." And I immediately went, "Why in the world would I want to move any other place? That makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
Why would I want to be that guy? I want to be the dude that like 25 years in is going, yeah, I think I'm ready to retire from this position.
Yeah.
Like I want to be that guy.
That's right.
That like the Pastor John who's been doing this stuff for so beautifully long that he's going to meet Jesus, and Jesus is going to high five him and go, "Here's your 20 cities. 'Cause dude, you killed it."
Yeah.
Yeah.
So good. I love that. Well, what motivates me is being useful. I love it when someone says, "Hey, can you help me with?" I love it when my kids arrive and like, "Hey, Dad, can you?" I know it's a hardship. Not for me. I'm all in. I'm cool. So excited. We just got a new dog.
Yes.
My kids are like, "I don't know if we can pull the all-nighter." I'm like, "No, I'm in. Yeah. If it means you get this dog that you love so much, I'm happy. I'm doing it." So Friday night, I was in there all-nighter. It was great. I love it. I just want to be helpful to people. I want to know that I matter for getting something accomplished in somebody else's life. That's motivating to me.
That's cool.
All right. So, well, this is actually taking a little bit longer than I was thinking. Right. So in real time, let's just make the decision to wrap this first conversation about leadership longevity up right here.
Yep.
Paying attention to our spiritual health.
Yeah.
There's a lot of wonderful benefits to longevity in ministry. And we believe they are strong enough that we need to bring this topic up. And to be honest with you, I probably have only heard maybe 2 conversations in all my ministry years about this topic. And it's so often what you just said. It's about being marketable,
right?
And about moving to the next place, the stepping stone. And a lot of people say, "Oh, that's a terrible way to think," and yet a lot of people think like that. And I think it's a better way to think longevity. Yeah. How can I make an incredible impact?
That's it.
In a place as long as I can, as long as I'm called to be there. Right. Yeah, if God calls us to leave, then we better.
Yeah, and that happens.
That's a different conversation, though.
Yeah, and if it's not a fit and we can't do anything about that, then okay, I get it. But even then, you need to consult with God about it, because pretty sure Daniel wanted to do something else, but God had called him there.
Yep.
And so, we just need to be listening to God on this stuff. But here's what I know. What we need to do first is pay attention to our spiritual health. So I think that'll be our challenge as we're wrapping up our conversation today. What satisfies your soul? It's a great question.
It is a great question.
What drains you? What motivates you? These are good questions. It'll help you get a sense of yourself today and whether really what's going on, that low-grade agitation or high-grade agitation that you're feeling that maybe makes you think you're restless and wanting to go somewhere else, maybe that's not it at all. Yeah. Maybe it's just something that's already there inside you, you can resolve, and would make you stay longer and make a greater impact. So thanks for having a real conversation about leading people, organization, and change with me today. This has been great.
It was good. Thank you.
If you like this conversation, we'd love it if you hit like, subscribe, the bell notifications so you won't miss one episode. And we want to see you again next time as we talk about part 2 of leadership longevity.